Giorgia, thank you so much for your time. And I also do have a couple of questions for you, which is what kind of aggravations do smuggled migrants suffer as part of the migration journey? What relevant gender dimensions can you identify? And what other messages would you like to convey? Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Morgan. I hope that you can all hear me well. And thank you for also the presentation that preceded my input. It's very interesting and encouraging to see that actually a lot of what we witness at sea has been absorbed into the report, even though it has been underlined how difficult data gathering is, and even though the situation is extremely concerning when it comes to the aggravated dimension of migrant smuggling, I would like to provide a few elements from the perspective of humanitarian NGOs operating at sea, as Morgan just explained in her introduction, and the focus will be from my side on the central Mediterranean Sea, so the Sicilian Channel between Libya and Sicily. I would like to start with two very short premises. I'm stating the obvious here, but first of all, what we witness is that aggravations are not necessarily linked, directly linked to the crime of smuggling, and on the other hand, and related to these, we have the aggravated dimensions starting from the country of origins and along the migration route and through the transit countries until Libya, and in some cases, especially for women, this can continue also in Europe in terms of exploitation. I would like to focus in particular about the aggravations that smuggled migrants suffer in Libya, and give a few hints about what we witnessed on the rescue ships. Okay, so I would I wanted to actually visualize a little bit what I describe as the cycle of abuse. And this is something that we witness at sea quite often when we rescue people that actually have attempted to cross the Mediterranean Sea several times. And what we have witnessed is that this has increased since 2017, since the agreement, the bilateral agreement between Italy and Libya, which is basically implementing the externalization policy of the European Union when it comes to supporting the Libyan authorities to make sure that they can address the presence of smuggled migrants at sea and intercept them and bring them back to Libya. What happens, however, is that once in Libya, intercepted migrants are subject to detention, and detention happens in Libya in different forms. Most of the people are in a condition of captivity. Only a very low percentage, about 4%, is and this is approximate data, excuse me about that, but you know better than me how difficult it is to have proper data on the situation in Libya. Only 4% of smuggled migrants are expected to be in official detention centers that are formally under the responsibility of the Ministry of Interior within the Department for Combating Illegal Migration. However, the issue is that there is no legal way out of this condition of detention, and that migrant people detained suffered exploitation, abuse, inhuman and degrading treatment. And there are different ways in which people can leave detention, and only in very few cases they are part of repatriation programs by the International Organization for Migration, or they are transferred based on their refugee status recognition by UNHCR. But we're talking about a very limited number of people. In other cases, people are often sold from detention centers centers, or they can only pay their way out through extortion. Extortion also very often involves, and this has been said already, abuse and inhuman and degrading treatment to encourage the families or the people connected to the individual to send the money. And we have here we also have, and also this has been stressed already, the situation in which often men are sold for the purpose of forced labor, and for women this often entails sexual exploitation. When it comes to the aggravated when it comes to the gender dimension of aggravated migrant smuggling, we said that this takes place and starts already from countries of origin. And if we look at the gender dimension, we have very specific situations that force women to flee, like forced marriage, female genital mutilation, which often means domestic abuse, but also when it is perpetrated by strangers and results in an exclusion from the community. And these are reasons that have a very specific gender dimension on top of the ones that are more common, like economic reasons or fleeing war or other forms of persecution. During the journey, there are, let's simplify, there are two different conditions in which people find themselves. They can be free and on the move, and still there are gender dimensions related to the type of abuse that people can suffer even when on the move. For example, at transit points along the route, during transfers, where women in particular are subject to assault by bandits, guards, or smugglers. It is very likely that there is a form of assault at checkpoints. This also often happens in the so-called chads, which are places where people gather looking for work and are often subject to kidnapping for the purpose of exploitation. And here we have, again, forced labor mainly for men and sexual exploitation for women. But there is also the risk of being assaulted during everyday life, for example, when and these means even just walking in the streets and looking for food, for example. And we then have the specific abuses related to the condition of captivity or detention. Allow me to make this distinction, because we said that, because it's very important for me to underline that while people are held captive in informal centers, there are thousands that are detained in a system which is officially, indirectly supported by the European Union at the moment through the system of intercepting people at sea and sending and having them sent back to these detention centers where they have no legal way out, and most case this only happens through exploitation, as we just said. In detention, women are subject to vaginal and anal searches. We have heard witness of regular abuse by guards. They are subject as well to beatings, and sometimes they are spared if they are in a condition of pregnancy. But we also heard cases in which the condition of pregnancy was actually a reason to be targeted. The women are also often transferred in and out from detention to have for sexual exploitation outside of the detention centers. And there is a particular dimension that I would like to highlight, which is the condition of pregnant women and lactating women with no access to medical care, and in a condition of having to deliver unassisted. We heard stories of women that had to cut the umbilical cord with pieces of glass, for example. There is no possibility to provide milk for the babies, and often women are not in a condition in which they can breastfeed because of the poor living condition. So these also entails often miscarriages, and of course the issue of unwanted pregnancies that we often witnessed on board, improvised contraceptive methods, and trauma, of course, related to the abuse. But this is something where I do not want to necessarily make a gender distinction. One point when it comes to when we rescue people at sea, Martin already anticipated some of, for example, the specific position of women on board. They are usually at the center of the rubber boat, or they are in the lower deck of wooden boats, which actually makes them in a position to be even more vulnerable at the person on the wheel, which is the one who is usually prosecuted. And here I pass on this line the word to Anne. Usually these are men, and we always have the situation in which the one or two people sitting on the side of the wheel are the one prosecuted for facilitating illegal immigration upon arrival on Sicilian shores in Italy. And I here pass the word on to Anne when it comes to the challenges in addressing in prosecuting migrant smuggling upon rescue at sea.